Trump turning on Putin, claiming he's had enough of him and his antics.
A lot of people are dying, and it should end. And I don't know, we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin. For you want to know the truth, he's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Well, now Trump is seeming to put his money where his mouth is, now saying that Ukraine will have the weapons to defend itself under his administration.
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
All right, this is a stunning turnaround for Trump, right, to say the least. I mean, just as recently as last week, right, this all started because the administration paused the delivery of missiles to Ukraine, something that Trump was asked about today.
So who ordered the pause last week?
I don't know. What did you tell me?
Well, we will in just a moment. We've got some new reporting on this, and our Natasha Bertrand is breaking some significant news on that in just a moment. But of course, despite the criticism today that Trump has had for Putin, the reason it is so stunning and so shocking to anyone watching is because we have all heard Trump shower Putin with praise for years.
I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. I knew Putin very well, got along with him actually great. Putin is a nicer person than I am. So now I like Putin. Now, Putin called me a genius, by the way.
And since the beginning of Putin's war in Ukraine, Trump has done something even more than those personal accolades, right? He has actually repeated Putin's talking points about the war again and again.
A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
And Trump, remember this, he told Time magazine, and I quote him, "I think what caused the war to start was when they started talking about joining NATO," referring to Ukraine. That, of course, is one of the key propaganda talking points from Putin. And today, longtime Putin ally, top Russian security official now, Dmitry Medvedev, is mocking Trump for, he says, flip-flopping, writing online, quote, "The American is riding his favorite political swing again. How should we treat this? Nothing. Continue to achieve the goals of the special military operation." Natasha Bertrand is live in Washington with some real breaking news on this. Natasha, you are getting new information about what sort of sparked all of this, which appears to be suddenly the U.S. paused weapon shipments to Ukraine last week. All of a sudden, there was this pause, and we just heard Trump deny knowing who ordered the pause, but you've learned what happened.
Yeah, Aaron, so my colleague Zach Cohen and I are getting a little bit of a better sense of the timeline here and just how all of this played out. What we're told is that Secretary of Defense Hegseth did not actually inform the White House prior to approving that pause on the weapons shipments. And that pause actually came about because President Trump last month, when he was on a trip to NATO with Secretary of Defense Hegseth, with Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, he asked them for essentially a state of play when it comes to the U.S. weapons stockpiles because, of course, Iran and Israel were attacking each other and U.S. troops in the Middle East were put at risk. And so he essentially wanted an assessment of, hey, do we have enough in the region in order to protect U.S. troops if they need to defend themselves? But Secretary of Defense Hegseth then kind of delegated that request down to the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, Albridge Colby, who ultimately himself made that recommendation to pause this weapons shipment. But Secretary Hegseth ultimately did sign off on it. Now, after all of that, we're told that pause was not actually told to the White House in real time. The White House found out about it in large part through press reports, including Secretary of State Rubio, who is also the president's national security advisor, was not looped in on this beforehand. And so we're told that after he found out about this pause, Trump actually pressed Hegseth to release at least part of that shipment of Patriot interceptors to the Ukrainians because, as we have heard Trump say repeatedly in recent days, the Ukrainians need those defensive weapons. And we're told that he sent much the same message to President Zelensky during that phone call on Friday, in which, yet again, he also downplayed his role in the decision to pause these weapons shipments, Aaron.
All right, Natasha, thank you very much. And incredible, though, what you're saying, that this was paused and the White House was not informed. The National Security Advisor was not informed, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. Retired General Wesley Clark and David Axelrod are with me now. So, David, you spent a lot of time working in a White House. So when you hear this, that the defense secretary signs off on pausing weapons shipments to Ukraine, does not tell the White House, does not tell the national Marco Rubio in his role, and the President Trump says he didn't know who even did this and who approved it. When you hear all this, what do you hear?
Absolutely astonishing. I mean, I'll yield to General Clark, who's got a much richer and deeper grasp of military history than I do. But I will tell you from my years in the White House, the idea that a decision like that would be taken on a matter of such import and obviously in a critical place without the National Security Advisor being informed and the President of the United States is beyond belief to me. And if I were the president, I'd be furious about that. I thought it was odd at the cabinet meeting today when Caitlin asked him that question, and he said, well, I don't know, you tell me. And the Secretary of Defense was sitting right next to him. So the whole thing was peculiar. Look, I